So how do you start fixing family? If a family comes to you as a marriage and family therapist, what is one of your key things that you say to them if they have any hope of reconciliation? What's the key thing?
Yeah. So let me back up to, like, I'm going to answer that to Neil's list, because that's that's got a lot of directions that could go. So if we're taking, one of the things, like you said, we have identity problems, right? Nobody knows who they are. I mean, and we're celebrating that they don't have to know who they are, right? Numbers on that are 43% of Americans think their relationships don't have meaning. Uh, one in five, 1 in 5 people say that they don't feel close to others. This is pre-COVID, by the way. And 53% say they don't have meaningful interaction, right? So I'm going to go back to the identity thing. I am, and we as a church, we as Christians have talked forever about the problem of fatherlessness, and you know and I don't think really have gotten to take a look at the consequences in the eye. And here we are, right? We know that, um,
And there's, you know, 80 some or 90 some percent more chance of
right,
being incarcerated.
right,
There's this, there's that. But the single parent families in the
yeah,
audience were so devastated by that statistic that I realized I kind of lacked compassion in sharing it. I didn't kind of add enough qualifications. So there might be single family parents uh, listening to this, and the feedback I got from just sharing the statistics of fatherlessness was like, well, we're doomed then. There's no
yeah,
hope for our children. We're doing
yep.
the best we can. We can't help it that we've been abandoned. So, can we just frame this, because it is a truism. It is truth. And that's why the Bible says at the end of the age, God himself is going to turn the hearts of fathers back to their children and the hearts of children back to their fathers. This is a divine mandate. This is a prophetic mandate. This is where God is going to restore the family union. And so, can you speak to that
Yeah.
framework?
Oh, and it's actually where I was headed. I have phenomenal empathy. Most of the people that grew up on that didn't make the choices. Their parents made the choices. And here they are, or they've been in a very hopeless situation themselves, and they've had to, you know, um, you know, figure out how to raise their own kids. I'm kind of saying it's a problem. Single mothers is a problem. It's our problem. This problem doesn't belong to the government. This doesn't belong to only to them to try to figure out how to survive on a loaf of bread. This is a problem that we have to admit out there, and we have to figure out, solutions on how to take care of it. And Neil and I have talked, we, the the government's good at doing, or has been good at putting in place things that I think the church should be doing. For instance, we talked right before this program, we should have a daycare for single moms. Like, everywhere you turn, something should be built so that they have a place that they can show up at their work and not worry about someone, taking care of their children, right? We were actually just got to go to Cornerstone Church in Texas a couple days ago, and they've started this thing for moms that have chosen not to have an abortion, where not only do they get to live in this nice home, it's a very beautiful home, but their children are going to get to go to their school for their entire, you know, um, K through 12 grades. They're not only taking it on, I'm going to help those moms with that decision, but we're going to make sure those kids don't get lost in the system.
That is so huge. The Lord's Prayer begins with
Right?
the word our.
Yeah.
Our. Right there. That's the very first word of the most basic prayer that Jesus taught his disciples to pray, our. And when you say this is our problem, because right now, I don't think much of society views it as our problem. They view it as their problem.
Yep.
And, maybe they'll do something small. I remember when our church uh, started a bunch of men in our church said, how are we going to solve the single mom problem? Because we're doing all these fights for families to keep their babies, for single moms to keep their babies. But what are we doing about it? And they started Hope Society and Hope for the Nations, where they actually built homes, nice homes, apartments, furnished them, and put single moms in there. And it goes on for this day, almost 30 years later, housing people. Housing single moms and in beautiful places, and I think there's businessmen that are fathers that can
Yes.
come together to do something like that for the single moms. They don't maybe have a husband or a dad, and then Big Brother programs. I think that was initially started by a group of people that wanted to help single moms and people that didn't have fathers or men in the household. So those are small solutions that turned into big solutions
Right.
because it was a corporate responsibility, not their responsibility. But as you so aptly put, it's our problem. It's what's in your neighborhood? Are there
Yes.
single moms in your neighborhood?
Yes.
Can you have them over for dinner? Are there small things you can do?
Oh, bigger than that, Stacey.
Yeah.
How about, like I offer to take your kid for a year. I'm at home with mine and I offered to take yours in for a year. I mean, if people did that, you know, I mean, I had three growing up. That was a lot anyway. And it would have been a lot, but I would have committed to watching someone's child for a while because I was doing my thing anyway. And I think that there are lots of those with a lot more creative people than me